Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and this is my furry sidekick Kylie, and we are here today to kick off another arc attack. If you're not familiar, my Arc Attack series is just basically my excuse to get to some of the advanced reader copies and advanced listener copies I've been so generously given by publishers and by authors to hopefully get some reviews out before these books hit the shelves, or at least soon thereafter, to give you an idea of whether a book might be for you or not. I do this across a wide variety of genres, and really it's about books that interest me and call me to pick them up, and I have so many that I'm excited for on my shelves that I can't wait to see what I actually wind up picking up for this particular arc attack. I actually have gone ahead and started my first book, so I'm going to give you some initial thoughts on that one. The first book I have is a June release and a gifted copy from Gallery, and this is Proof by John Cowan, and this is coming out on June 24th. I also have a gifted audiobook copy of this from Simon Audio, and I've mostly so far been consuming it on audio. In this book, we're following Jake, and he is a lawyer, but he's been struggling with a lot in his life. He is an alcoholic. He has been called to task for not doing things exactly right and been censured. He still has a license to practice law, but it's kind of borderline whether this continues to be the case. He believes his father is a corrupt lawyer and has that issue going on, and as the book opens we wind up meeting his former best friend, and he's divorced from his wife and separated from his children. As the book opens we meet his former best friend, who appears to just be checking in on him, perhaps at his father's behest, but seems to actually care about our main character. And then someone comes over, knocks on the window of the car they're sitting in, and shoots the friend. Being the only person on scene, the only witness, Jake is a person of interest, a suspect in this particular murder. He also takes on one of his friend's cases, and there seems to be some suspicious things happening with this particular case as well. I haven't read a legal thriller in quite a while, so this is kind of a refreshing change of pace for me in terms of my reading, and I really enjoyed getting into the first half of this one. I was a little bit worried, knowing we had an alcoholic main character, that he would be a struggle to like, and there are times he makes decisions I don't love, but he has some semblance of control on his addiction. It's definitely a struggle for him, and we are hearing about that in the book, but he does get that there is a time and a place to some extent. He's definitely controlled by the cravings, but also Kylie wanted to share her toy, so we're gonna hold on to this while I finish this up. Anyway, like I was saying, he does have some knowledge that if he's going to be seeing his kids, he needs to stay sober. If he's going to be in court, he has to have control of himself. And he doesn't always do everything perfectly, but he is trying, and I can feel for him in that regard. In terms of the mystery, I'm intrigued. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily at a can't put it down type of stage with this story, but I am very interested to see where it's going. I like the way that Jake's kind of playing politics with the prosecutor in the case he's covering. He's definitely got a brain in his head, which is a character I really enjoy as well. So this is going well so far. We're off to a good start. I'm going to go ahead and keep reading this one today and hopefully finish it up today, but we shall see what the workday has in store for me once I get there. But I'm enjoying this one, and we'll come back to you with final thoughts. An early morning update for me to let you know that I have now finished Proof. And overall, I like this one. It was a nice change of pace. It's different from a lot of the stuff I've been reading lately. I liked the legal aspects of this, and also the fact that we're dealing with a main character who is so deeply flawed, who is struggling, and we are watching that struggle on page with addiction, with having different motivations to try to hold himself accountable to being sober, which is something that he hasn't really had motivation for before, from what it sounds like. And we've got different forces at play in his life between his family and this trial and mystery that he's now found himself in the middle of without really having any motivation. I would say this one didn't quite hit the breakneck speed I kind of expected with him being accused of this friend's murder. There are some things that come out of that and reasons why he would have motive, but ultimately I think that gets cleared up relatively quickly, where the powers that be don't necessarily still think he's the one to blame, and it's more so him uncovering what happened and what the larger ramifications are of what happened. And that's really where the thriller and mystery element lies in this book. And I did like kind of the addiction rep and the kind of mental health rep that goes along with that, with his struggles and seeing that. And I think he is trying. He's flawed, very deeply flawed. So I think overall I was pulling for him. Sometimes with an unlikable character or a character who's giving in to addiction and things like that, I don't connect with as well. But I think there was enough of him wanting to do the right thing that really drew me to support him and to be rooting for him. So this one wound up being a 3.5 star for me. And if you enjoy a good legal mystery, I think this is one that might work for you as well. I'm back with another arc for you. I'm halfway into What We Do in Secret by Christina Graves. This is a gifted e-arc that I received from Horrorsmith Publishing, and it actually just came out a few days ago on May 27th. They sent this kind of right as it hit shelves, so I didn't have a chance to read it really far in advance, but it's still an advance copy, and therefore I'm still bringing it to you. This is the book that I'm hoping will be my final finished read in May, before shifting into the new readathon for June. In this book, we're following Carla, and she has been institutionalized for mental health for quite some time. We don't really know all the details of this, but she's meant to be taking medicine. We know she's really not, and she's in need of something to kind of grab her and keep her wanting to be alive. And this becomes an obsession with her neighbors across the street. She's someone who likes to kind of snoop on their neighbors, kind of observe them, maybe do a little light breaking and entering to see what's up with them. And there is definitely a stalker aspect going on in here. It has kind of the vibes of You by Carolyn Kepnes, and it had me pretty quickly intrigued in the beginning. There are a lot of moving parts in here, and as I'm getting further into the book, it's keeping me really engaged. I've gone through this really quickly, but I also feel like there could wind up being too many moving parts with everything going on. From the prologue, we know things are going to happen related to the couple across the street's son. There's the kid involved, there's a dog involved. We've got the really messy relationship between these neighbors. She does start engaging with them pretty quickly in the story as well, so it's not just her observing them, it's her integrating herself into their lives. And there's a lot of messiness going on there. She's making some really poor decisions, which admittedly she has a mental health issue, but also some of the choices she's making I don't love. And there are some things going on in the book related to marriage and stepping outside of marriage and things like that that aren't my favorite things to read about, so I'm not sure. The tension moments are really well done in here. There's a moment when our main character is about to get caught doing something or has the risk of getting caught doing something, and that really had me on the edge of my seat. I was reading this, just kind of starting the book during some sprints I was running last night, and I was really happy that we resolved this moment before the timer went off, because I don't know that I could have stopped at that moment in time. So this is an author I've read from before. I think I had an arc also from Horrorsmith of their last book that came out. So it is one that has me really interested at this point. I am enjoying it. We're going to have to see how the ending resolves to see how it's going to go in the end. But I am interested to see what's going on. There's a mother. The main character's mother is in a room upstairs. All we've really heard from her is her ringing bells and seeing our main character checking on her. So I'm wondering what's going on there. There's an ex-wife to the man across the street where there's some messiness there. There's also another element of someone who's gone missing in this book. So like I said, there's just a lot of moving parts, and I'm not sure which are going to become the most important by the end, but I am very intrigued to figure it out. So I'm going to keep reading. I'm about to just take a break, get myself some food. I know Lexi's doing some sprint shortly, so I'm going to jump onto those and keep reading, and I'll be back hopefully this evening or later this afternoon with final thoughts on this book. I'm back because I finished What We Do in Secret. I still keep messing up that title. And to add to the chaos, there's a rather loud gathering party, whatever, happening next door. So if you're hearing background noise, that's what that is. Trying not to let it bug me. At this point, it's hot. I'm ready for a break. But I wanted to give a check-in. This book, it was extremely readable. Even though I've been very distracted today, it held my attention well. I made it through it really quickly, and those are all really good signs. I didn't love some of the ways the story went, the narrative. I don't want to give spoilers, so I'm going to be vague, which is going to make this a little frustrating. But our main character is one that I really wanted to know a few more answers about and a little bit more about her background. I called some of the twists in here, but there were also some things that I felt like we didn't get an explanation on. The ending is not one that thrills me, if I'm being honest with it. So in the end, this one wound up getting bumped down a couple points in my mind based on the ending and the way the character development went, or the fact that we didn't get quite as much as I would have liked. But I am ending up at a 3.5, and I am rounding it, I think, to a 4, just because it was so compulsively readable. It definitely did tension really well in several moments, and it kept me wanting to keep reading and not wanting to put it down, all of which are really good things when it comes to reading a thriller type read. It does go pretty dark, and I would suggest looking at some trigger warnings. I think they're going to be a little bit harder to find initially because right now it doesn't have any ratings or reviews on this book, but I would be happy if you want to ask to give you some more information. Feel free. I just don't want to include it because some of it would be, I think, a little bit spoilery. So with that, I am going to go ahead and take a break. The Amazing Readathon kicks off in just a matter of hours at this point, so I'm going to chill out for a while, hang out with Kylie, possibly even turn on the AC because it wasn't supposed to be super hot today, and then every time I look at the temperature, it keeps going up and not back down. So we'll see how that goes, but I am wanting to start fresh come when the next readathon starts at 9 o'clock. And we will go from there. So with that, I'm not going to focus too much in on Amazing Readathon in this particular vlog because I am planning to weekly vlog the full month, but there will be a little bit of overlap when it comes to books for this vlog and for the readathon, so I'm just going to touch on it probably here or there. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and hang out with Kylie, watch some TV, and recharge for a while. Hello, I'm here with a very quick pre-work update for you because I realized I'm actually at halfway into my next arc, and I didn't realize that till I really should be leaving pretty shortly now, and I still need to make coffee, and that's priority too. But I am 3 hours into a 6-hour audiobook for Kill Creatures by Rory Powers, and this one is due to come out on June 3rd. This is tomorrow in real time, if you're curious. But in this book, it's a YA thriller. We're following Nan, and a year ago, 3 of her friends went missing and were never found. And she's been through a lot in this last year. There's a lot of questions. She's constantly kind of being asked what happened, how is she the one who survived, and they're about to do the kind of memorial for the 1-year anniversary when suddenly one of the girls shows up and she seems to have amnesia. She doesn't know what's been going on. Nan is shocked by this because as far as she knows, she killed those 3 friends and they shouldn't be alive anymore. So this one has me very intrigued, but it is very much a slow burn. For such a short book, it's less than 300 pages. Like I said, it's only a 6-hour audio. It really is taking its time to kind of get into the story. And I would say this one is very much a character-driven book, more a psychological thriller than actually anything edge-of-your-seat thrillery. So I'm very intrigued. This character is very interesting. There's some dynamics between the girls. We're getting the past timeline and the present timeline. So we kind of see the relationship between the girls, and were they friends? Were they frenemies? Were they something more? It's a big question mark. It's definitely a queer book. We've got relationships between the girls, and it is going to work quite well since I'm working on Amazing Readathon currently to get me some bonus points, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm hoping the action picks up a little bit in the second half. That's something that I think could make this land a little bit better for me. The reviews on Goodreads are generally pretty good, so I think restructuring my expectation with this, that it is going to be very character driven, and then hoping for just a little bit of a pickup in the second half would make this land much more solidly for me. But I'm going to go ahead and get to work. Hopefully I will be able to do some audiobooking at work. This one will work quite well for some mindless tasks while I'm working, so I'm hoping maybe I can finish this one up today, and we shall see. I will be back once I have finished to give you my final thoughts. I'm back with final thoughts on Kill Creatures, and overall, I liked this one. I definitely did not love it. I could have very easily at multiple places put it down, quite frankly, but I did appreciate kind of the setting of this and the fact that some of the twists I didn't entirely anticipate. I was waiting for kind of a big bang type of twist at the end, and this one didn't deliver on that, which was more about my expectations than the book itself, I think. The story very much is character driven, but I did appreciate the way it wound up ending, and it's one I think could be polarizing, but I did like how it went. So in the end, this one wound up being a 3.5 star for me. I think it was well written. I think the tension was good in places. I think it kept me wondering what was going on, which was good. I just maybe went into it with the wrong expectations. So with that, I will go ahead and keep this short and sweet and move on to my next arc. I am here with my next arc, and that is One Yellow Eye by Leigh Radford, and this one is coming out on July 15th. I talked about this one very briefly in my zombie vlog because I had hoped to fit it in there because it is indeed a zombie story. Unfortunately, I just ran out of time, especially since I only have this one physically, and I just wasn't able to get to it in. But I am now nearly at the halfway point. I'm at chapter 15. It's a very different kind of zombie story, and I like that about it. In this book, we're following Kesta, and she is a nurse. She is someone who works in pathology, and she is in this world where the zombie invasion has happened. This has happened in the US. It's not, as best I can tell, international at this point. And it's believed that all these zombies were created by some kind of virus. It's spread by biting, but the government was able to basically stomp it out, kill all of the zombies. But there's still a lot of questions about how this virus came about, where it came from, can it come up again? And they're needing to do research and try to figure this out, try to get a cure, and make people feel a lot more safe in the world if there's a cure for whatever went wrong that killed so many people, including kind of Kesta's husband. And I say kind of because she did not let him get killed. He got turned into a zombie, and she's keeping him at home, basically in a hospital bed. He's chained down. She's keeping him alive with fluids, with whatever she can do to kind of keep him calm and keep him in good condition, because she's really counting on this cure that's supposedly coming to be able to bring him back to her. We're getting glimpses of their life before when they first met, and some of that to kind of get a feel for why she's so lost without him, why she needs to bring him back. And she gets an opportunity to go work for Project Dawn, which is the project funded by the government and so forth to research and work on this cure. She's spending a lot of time doing busy work, slicing up pieces of zombies for study. And the author's doing some interesting things with comparing zombies in kind of a food-related way. Like she's slicing a liver and comparing it to how you slice sashimi. And they're talking about the drawers at the coroner's office versus at a mortuary, and how it's kind of like the lettuce drawer in your refrigerator. So there's some interesting twists that the author's doing in terms of descriptions. But she's doing all of this busy work and she's frustrated they're not getting the cure quickly enough. Her husband at home is starting to fight the kind of sedative she's giving him, and she feels like she's on a bit of a clock, and she's starting to really push to get more answers. And I'm really enjoying kind of the science aspect of it, the way they're thinking through what might have happened to create this virus. And it's really interesting when I sit down and read it. Since this is an eyeballs only read for me right now, I am taking a little bit longer just because I've been reading it during the work week, and there's only so much physical reading I can do when I get home from work. My eyes just are tired. So I'm kind of hoping I might have access to an audiobook soon, but as we're now getting into June, I am eager to keep going on this one and get further into it. I'm in a reading mood. I don't currently have anything that's controlling what I need to read until we get our first prompt for the amazing readathon from Brie at 4 Paws in a Book. So that's kind of where we are in the grand scheme of things. We're at the very tail end of May, not quite into June yet, and therefore I'm kind of in this limbo between readathons a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm liking Kesta. I don't trust some of the ways she is kind of exposing herself to her husband. That sounds bad, but she's trusting that there's still humanity within him and trusting him not to bite her in situations and things like that. And I feel like things could go very, very badly. We've had a few moments where people come close to figuring out what's going on or trying to get in her apartment for various reasons, and no one's allowed to know she has a zombie in the house because that would be bad. So I'm very curious where this is going to go. I'm not quite sure what direction it's going to take, but I'm intrigued to find out. So I will check back in with you once I get to the end of this book. I am back because I finally finished up One Yellow Eye, and I feel like I've been reading this for ages, and it's not the book. Every time I picked it up, I'd be super engaged with it, but it's just, I haven't had a ton of time to just sit down and stay awake and read a physical book. So I think it worked really well at engaging me, since I did kind of pick it up and put it down so many times that sometimes the story can lose me when I'm doing that, and this one didn't. It really had me interested to keep going. I liked our main character, Kesta, in here. I at least somewhat understood where she was coming from in the decisions she was making, even as I was nervous the whole time about what she was doing, and it felt so impulsive, and she was underslept. She was stressed. She was grieving. Even though she still had her husband in zombie form at home, she still lost the life they had lived together and everything else. I like the science aspects of this. I like the fact that it really kind of talks about how things might have happened and how they can go about maybe fixing it. And a lot of those things made this really a unique zombie story for me. The ending goes some directions that I did not expect, and that was kind of fun as well. So in the end, I'm giving this one a strong 4 stars. I think if you like zombie stories, if you like slow burn horror sci-fi type stories, I think this one is one that might work well for you, and I would suggest checking it out. Besides which, that cover still, every time I see it, it catches my attention. So with that, I'm moving on to my next arc, and I will be back as soon as I have some further updates for you. It is time to focus in on another arc, and I received a copy from Penzler Press of Jill Is Not Happy by Rouda, and this is one I just got last week, but it comes out tomorrow in real time, which is June 10th, so I did want to kind of pivot and hurry up and focus on this one, at least to get a currently reading post out for it today. This is a thriller, and we're following a married couple. We're seeing both of their POVs. We've got a husband and wife who were college sweethearts and have been together all this time, except what's really driving their marriage is less about love and more about a dark secret that they share. The book opens with a hit and run without any names in it, but we have a couple people driving a car, they hit someone, they take off. And then the book goes into how this couple has a dark secret from their past. So is that the hit and run? Is it something else? That remains to be seen. The wife is trying to hold on to this marriage. Their child is off at college. they really don't have much holding them together anymore except for this shared secret history. But she is determined to kind of keep them together, to not let this wind up in divorce. We very quickly in here learn that the husband's having an affair. He has another woman he loves and he wants out. Meanwhile, the two of them are going on a road trip to Utah. So far this book is setting up to be a really big, can't look away, train wreck approaching kind of a story. And I'm definitely intrigued by it. I don't know that I'm in love with it yet, but I do like the messiness of it, because we go in knowing it's messy. Nobody's really lying to the reader, at least, about what's going on. They are being pretty upfront with the fact that this isn't a real marriage, so I'm not as bothered by the fact that he's cheating in it, because he doesn't want to be there. He's pretty open about that, and I'm really interested to see how it plays out. There's already been some talk in here about the wife saying the husband's depressed and setting up some stuff there. I'm not sure if he's actually ever shown signs of mental health issues or if she's setting something up. So I have a lot of questions, a lot of intrigue. Definitely an easy read. I just started this morning and I'm already a good chunk of the way in, so I wanted to give you an update so I can continue on with it, since I do also have the audiobook for this one from NetGalley, and I will let you know. I may just finish this up tonight. It depends on probably what goes on with the Amazing Readathon and what my priorities are there, but I'm intrigued to keep going on this, and we'll check in with you as soon as I have updates. Good morning. You'll be hearing Kylie chowing down on her breakfast behind me, but just ignore that because I overslept a bit this morning, so I'm in a rush to get out the door and get to work, unfortunately. But I did want to provide you with an update because I finished Jill Is Not Happy last night. I ultimately had mixed feelings about this one. I liked the fact that it was so bingeable. It was such a quick read that I didn't at any point get bored or want to put it down. But also, I'm not entirely sure I like the way this ended. I really wanted to wind up rooting for one of our characters and for them to have more agency in this situation, and that's really just not there. But it is a book that really is for those who like the messy situations, because it 100% delivers on that, and I had a good time in general with it, so I'm giving this one a 3.5. So with that, I will go ahead and leave you here and check in with you as soon as I start my next book. I am back with my next ARC update. I am now halfway into The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Khaw, and this is one that has had me super intrigued. I've been excited to pick it up. I received a gifted copy from Tor and just recently also got the audiobook from Macmillan Audio, so I've been reading it when I am working on some Amazing Readathon reads that require eyeball reading only, and I need to be up and moving around for a bit. This is a great audiobook to put on. I started on the way home from work yesterday and I very quickly got to the halfway point because I am enjoying my time with it, and it's a really easy, quick binge. This one is such a unique setup. It's basically a school for the dark people, the killers, the antichrists, the dark creatures of our world or fantasy worlds. The back says it's the Hellebore Technical Institute for the Gifted. It's teaching people to be people instead of monsters. The prerequisites are murder, a willingness to sell your soul, and aptitude for the dark arts. And the course objective is to survive long enough to graduate. There is a sense of competition. Only one person may make it out alive. The main character we are following is someone who is indeed a killer, and to some extent maybe out of her control. Some of it may be in her control. It is very gory. It's very messy. It starts off with her waking up and her roommate has been slaughtered by her, and we're not sure at the beginning if she's done this intentionally, if there was a cause for it. She's caught by other people, and we're going back and forth in time a little bit. We learned that she sliced up her, I think it's her stepfather, who was about to do really bad things to her, and so we see that some of it's justified. We don't necessarily know if the roommate was justified, but she winds up being kind of pulled into this very weird place, and there are creatures made of of meat. There are creatures who consume themselves. There's just all sorts of weirdness going on in here. And the going back and forth in time has lost me in a few places. We're going to before and after, and I've gotten a little bit confused about the setting, but I am so intrigued. It's definitely had me hooked, but absolutely check the trigger warnings. There's a lot of disturbing things going on in here, and I'm eager to keep reading it. I'm not sure what that says about me, but there you have it. That's where we're at the moment. I'm not going to be able to finish this weekend because I am primarily focusing in on my face-off weekend reading for the Amazing Readathon, but this one I picked up in particular because one of our prompts right now is a character who is morally gray, and that's absolutely relevant in here. So anyway, all that said, I'm going to get back to my face-off reading, but I'm excited to pick this one back up when I can. Hello again. I wanted to provide you my final thoughts on the library at Hellebore, and they're a little bit mixed, I would say. At the beginning of this book, I was definitely confused by the back and forth in time and the shifts in what was going on. I did find that it connected a little bit better toward the end. I was able to kind of follow a little bit more, but there are things in here that are being intentionally vague, and I think it was okay for the type of story it was telling. It just was maybe not as gripping to me in the moment when I was kind of trying to read this and pick it up and put it down just because I was doing other things at the same time. When I was able to focus in more on the second half, it definitely improved things. So I think partially it was the book, partially it was me that was struggling a little bit in here. Like I said, things are kept a little bit vague. The ending leaves a few things up to interpretation, I would say. The book itself is definitely gory for the sake of being gory. It's definitely pushing the limits of that in different ways, and there are a whole host of trigger warnings I'd warn you about with this one, but most center on body horror and that type of a twist and turn to the story in here. The writing itself I liked. I saw a lot of reviews complain about the fact that it felt like the author was using a thesaurus to put in a bunch of big words. And I don't disagree with that, but also given that this is dark academia and it's going for that kind of over-the-top knowledge school type setting, it kind of felt like to me it actually worked in here. But if that's the type of book that might cause you some frustrations, I would say avoid this one. I feel like most things I could figure out because I knew the words or by context or whatever, but there definitely were a few where I went, wait, what's that? So in the end, this one's getting a strong 3.5 to a low 4 for me. I think there were enough things in here that I really did appreciate. The language, the outright horror, the setting of it, I think worked really well for me. In the end, there were just a few things that kind of dragged it back down, which is why 3.5 I think makes the most sense for me. But anyway, this is an arc done. It will be hitting shelves in July if it's something that might catch your attention. I have finished up my next arc. I know I didn't give midway thoughts on this one, but it's nonfiction and I don't always feel like I have enough to say in the middle. That's going to be different from how I feel at the end. So I read Wildfire Days, A Woman, a Hotshot Crew in the Burning American West. This is by Kelly Ramsey, and it's a gifted copy I received from Scribner. It just came out actually today in real time. It's June 17th, and this one just published today. I had the gifted audiobook for this one from Simon Audio, and honestly, I was kind of procrastinating reading this one until I got the audio, just because I have been scrambling to find time to sit and physically read things. So I really enjoyed the audio for this one. It's actually narrated by the author herself, which I always appreciate. With all of the wildfires and issues we've been having with fires in California, this one absolutely caught my attention and I found it really interesting. I think we do get a lot of the politics of being a woman in a male-dominated field. She is the only woman on this crew that she's working with when she starts. She's also older by a couple years than a lot of these men, and I mean she's like low 20s to mid 20s. She's not by any means old, but it definitely plays a factor in here. She talks about being treated like a mother in some situations, like one of the guys in some situations, but it takes her a while to kind of convince people to treat her as an equal. She has physical things to overcome, just differences in the female body. She has to deal with things like menstruation when she's out in the middle of nowhere on a fire. And it does talk about that quite a bit as well. In addition to learning about the fires and her work on the fires, we're also looking at her personal life. This is part memoir, part about the fires, I would say. I guess it's all memoir, but it's partially fires, also her life, let's put it that way. And the relationships that kind of suffer under the situations she's in here, the financial troubles that can come out of these, the dangers to people. But she's also talking about things separate from the fires, like her relationship with her alcoholic father and his struggles. So overall, I found this a really interesting read. I'm giving it 4 stars, and if it's something that sounds intriguing, I would definitely suggest picking it up. I have started what might wind up being the last arc of this video. I'm not 100% positive on that yet. We'll see how things go with everything else going on. But I have now started Girl in the Creek by Wendy and Wagner. And I have a gifted audiobook copy of this one from Macmillan Audio. And this one comes out on July 15th. We are following Erin, and 5 years ago her brother disappeared. We're set in the Pacific Northwest, and her brother basically just walked out into the forest and was never seen again. It's been obviously some years, but Erin has heard that there are multiple people who have gone missing in this region, and she decides to head back and figure out if she can get answers. And currently there is one particular body they have found in the creek, and that gives us the title of the book. The synopsis promises that this discovery puts Erin in the crosshairs of very powerful forces, and I'm not sure what direction this story is going to go. I'm currently about 35% of the way in. It's not a super long audio. I want to say it's like 7.5 hours. I think the impression is this is going to go into a little bit of a supernatural direction, so I'm very eager to see how that picks up. Currently, we are very focused, I think, primarily in the real world and the idea of these missing people and tracking down this body, the people who have gone missing. Erin's been kind of flying under the radar with the people who are local in terms of her connection to one of these cases, and I really am interested to see how this is going to play out. I think the atmosphere has been really good so far. The setup of the plot certainly has a lot of intrigue to it. I don't have a ton of thoughts on it so far, but since it is such a short book, I wanted to go ahead and do an early check-in and just let you know my very few initial thoughts. So I'm going to keep going on this one and have high hopes that it is going to be nice and dark and intriguing enough to keep me entertained. And hopefully maybe I can get back to you tonight or early tomorrow. So time will tell, but I'm going to continue on and I'll be back when I'm back. I'm back with some final thoughts on Girl in the Creek, and this went the direction that I wanted it to. It got dark, it got disturbing, it got very, very weird. It embraced being strange, and there were stakes for the characters and the people they cared about. We got resolution to some of the questions, and we get an ending with a little bit of a twist, which I saw kind of coming, but still really appreciated the way that it worked and kind of the general overall atmosphere in here. I wouldn't necessarily say that I felt super close to any of the characters, and I think the plot took a little long to get into initially for me to give this a super, super high rating, but I am giving it a 4. Obviously, I enjoyed it. It was an easy binge read last night, and finishing this up, I didn't want to put it down, so all of that is good sign. And with this, I am going to go ahead and wrap up this arc-attack here. I have a bunch of books that I would love to get to, but at the same time, at this point in June, we're getting toward the end of the month, needing to finish some stuff up for the readathon, needing to figure out my July content. So altogether, I decided we've got 8 books in this one, I think, if I counted correctly, and really I can't fit a 9th on the thumbnail, so for all those reasons, it's a good time to wrap up. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of these, or any of them on your radar, or any of the ones you're planning on reading? Or if not any of that, let me know what's an upcoming release you're super excited for. And if you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, leave me a mushroom emoji, because the mushrooms on the cover in here certainly play a strong part in the cover and the story. And if you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my arc attacks, more of my book reviews, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll go ahead and leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.